Welcome back and thank you very much. The Ghanaian Times starts us off. It says, police probe Yamoa Ponko Yamin over deadly shooting in Kumasi. Embrace election of MMDCs by the people, president. And I saw 7 bullet holes on Bawaleshi school wall, Greater Accra Regional Commander says. So, anti-money laundering and countering and the financing of terrorism. Ghana rejects blacklisting. The Daily Graphic. Fallout from bloody NDC meeting in Kumasi. Police quiz Yamin, Yamoa Ponko. New Ghana map with 16 regional capitals is on page 44 of the Daily Graphic. You could buy it and read it, catch it out, and let your children know about it. Concerns about high import duties. Council of State intervenes. Let's not just disband vigilantes. It should be backed by law. DCOP Sapong, Greater Accra Regional Commander of the Ghana Police Service. Daily Guide. The court throws out Mahama Ayariga and Ghana Beyond Aid roadmap out. Slain NDC vigilante goes home today and police contradicts police at Ayawaso Commission. Yamoa Ponko Yamin quizzed over NDC killing. The BNFT, Ghana Gas pushes for energy sector escrow account. Planned bailouts to reduce cost to economy, said Tekpe. And STC secures some $13 million loan for 100 new coaches. Finally, the Finder newspaper, 88% failed law school examination. Professor Sari wants General Legal Council dissolved. Presby moderator urges political parties to disband vigilante groups and embrace steps to electing MMDCs. Roadmap for Ghana Beyond Aid out. EC embarks on a 20-day voter transfer exercise. My guest this morning, the Honourable Alhassan Suhuyini, is the Member of Parliament for Tamale North, and the Honourable Andre Japamesa is the Member of Parliament for Sekondi. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Where do we begin? Do we start from the law school, or do we start from the commission, the progress they are making so far? Or maybe we'll start from police quizzing Yamoa Ponko and Yamin at this juncture. And yesterday, the police said they are picking some more suspects up of the unfortunate incident. Your party, Alhaji, has asked that the police expedite action on this one. But this will be the first time, not from your party, this will be the first time we're seeing key political actors make this call to the police. And yet the police say, disband these groups, and we are not seeing action. Where do we go from here?
Well, thank you very much once again. Let me say good morning to Bobo, and then good morning to everyone, especially our viewers and the constituents of Tamale North. Good morning, and thank you very much for tuning in. I think that, first of all, it has to be stated unequivocally that as a party, we condemn what happened in the Ashanti region, and we have, wasted no words in demanding that, the right things be done by way of serving justice to the people who were affected by this disturbance. And I will, perhaps on this note, want to extend my heartfelt condolences to the family of Washid, who I'm told will be buried later today. What happened in the Ashanti region clearly was a criminal act, and we do not want it to be reduced to vigilantism and partisanship. And that is why, as a party, clearly our leadership reported this matter to the police. The former president, also requested the police to take action and to find the perpetrators and take them through the full rigors of the law. And if they have invited Yamoa Ponko and Joseph Yamin, it is because we hope that the police have something that links them to it, or they know something that they hope they can be of help as far as the unraveling of this matter is concerned. And it's all well and good. We don't think that anybody should be shielded in this matter. We think that whoever was responsible for this must be arrested and dealt with. It must be treated as a criminal act perpetrated by a criminal who if arrested, must be severely dealt with. And we don't want it to be reduced to anything else but a crime that has been committed. And you see,
that's the fair point
and that is, and whilst at this, I'll also want to caution the commentary. I want to caution people who are making commentary around it, even including the police, because I was first of all shocked that the first statement that came did not even come from the Ashanti Regional Police Command. It came from Accra. I mean, I don't know how quickly it, heightened from the Ashanti region all the way to the headquarters for them to have to issue the statement. But be it as it may, even in that statement and the subsequent interviews that I heard the regional commander gave, I was not particularly happy that the element of partisanship, was still lingering in the presentation of the regional police command, even though the leadership of the party have at every point, especially after this happened, insisted that this is criminal.
It's one thing to say this is criminal and this is bad, and it's another thing to say we are making a commitment to you. Next week we won't have any such elements, around us, and that's for both parties, because we do know that the problem, and yesterday I said it here yesterday, that these guys are hoodlums and they are criminals. Professor Mensah Bonsu said they are militia. Let's not call them vigilantes for anything. So we've gotten to the point where we need to say to ourselves that beyond condemnation, beyond equalization, we don't want them anymore. And so the party should disassociate itself from them.
I'll get to that, but I'll still continue with what I was saying about cautioning people who make commentary on these things, because it is the way we comment on it that will help the situation or leave it as, maintain the status quo. So if we say it is criminal and you think it was done by a member of a group that belongs to us, we do not care. And like our General Secretary said, fish that person out if you can find him, and people are ready to collaborate and get the person dealt with according to the laws. But again, we are talking about a regional command that in the past, got their facts wrong when the case of some alleged armed robbers were killed.
The seven.
The 7 armed robbers were killed and guns displayed. So when you have them acting in such haste, branding people in such haste, you begin to wonder if they are not perhaps at it again. You would have thought that the lessons of those 7 armed robbers will make them cautious about how to brand a criminal incidents or people involved in that crime. But so that is the only worry I have. The fact that they have branded people in the past as armed robbers who turned out per investigations not to be armed robbers, and the president through the state had to compensate families, for that. So I think they should hasten
except
slowly.
to say that in this particular instance, the 4 names that we're giving up, were given up by somebody from within your party.
I understand that, but you see, we are saying that these people committed a crime, and so pursue them, deal with them as criminals, and avoid those branding, especially when you are even getting cooperation from the people that you may want to call vigilante groups. The people themselves are telling you that we saw those who did it. These are the people. Even if they are one of us, they have committed a crime. And that is the difference that must be emphasized here. Even if they are one of us, they have committed a crime, and we are urging you to go after them. So there's no point, in over highlighting, the brand that we all are trying to say that, we are all speaking against these days. And I am happy. I am happy that we have gotten to the point where the nation is speaking about the need to deal with this vigilante
starts from
groups.
the parties. The question now to you is your party ready to disband these groups? For example, And this will be my final thing to you.
I am a member of parliament of my party.
Okay.
I don't work in the party secretariat. I do not speak for the party in terms of, you know, its administration and the structures that exist.
What would be your private wish as an MP?
But you see,
a key member of your party. What would be your private wish?
I don't think it is a fair question. My private wish.
Why is it not a fair question?
I will explain to you. My private wish, I have stated so many times in years past. When this started, I stated my private wish. And if you go back to my old discussions on this matter, especially around 2015 and 2016, you would have heard me saying that let's stop this before other political parties pick it up. I kept saying it, that let's stop this before other political parties emulate that example. I kept saying it. And so my worry and my disappointment, well, maybe not disappointment, but my worry is that at this stage, once again, we have allowed a certain misdeed to fester to a point where we are now calling on the nation to help those who nurtured this misdeed to resolve it. Why did we have to come to this point? And when you speak, you are saying this is the last question you're asking me. This may take a little, maybe just 2 minutes. When we speak,
needs to have his
yes, when we speak, then people make references to Azoka boys when it started in the past. But look, Johnny, let's be very honest. The NDC didn't consciously go out of its way to set up a group known as Azoka boys. So anybody knows the history. They come up? I will give you the history. The NDC had internal contest. And at the time, the contest was between, even though former President Rawlings was not contesting, he had a big weight and supported some side. And then Obed Asamoah, who was our chairman at the time, had another faction. Now, the supporters of Chairman Rawlings at the time, when they got to Congress, in their over-exuberance, unleash what you can call violence on the Obed Asamoah faction. Bit Zidin and Francis and SCM and others were manhandled. And these boys were led by Sofo Azoka. And so they became known as Azoka boys. Then after that Congress, there was a by-election in the north. And they went there again, Azoka went there again to support his party. So it is not like the NDC consciously set up some group known as Azoka boys to unleash mayhem on people. Then after that, the MPP set up the Bamba boys. We had all kind of boys.
Those were set up by the MPP.
No, well, I can also say Bamba and others, but because Bamba was a national organizer at the time.
So
Bamba was a national organizer, so he used the party structure. You can see, because Azoka was nobody. Azoka was not an executive of the party.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Bobo, allow me. I'm just curious. Hold on. I'm just curious to know, the party didn't form it, you say, but the party didn't condemn what happened at the time. That's institutionalizing the error.
I will get to the difference. Now, Bamba, who was a national... Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. I beg you. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Just because he was national organizer and formed it, and subsequently they formed other groups. Then in 2015, that's why I was saying that I kept saying this in 2015. In 2015, we then had the NPP institutionalizing this across the country, forming the regions, forming Bulldogs, Invisible Forces, Delta Force, and justifying it. And I kept saying, let's stop this before other parties emulate it. I kept saying this.
Bobo,
it is sad that we are here.
Stepping for me now. Now, the clarion call is that, look, we don't need this. It's causing us a lot of trouble. You have some, they have some, but we don't need it. What happened in Kumasi is very unfortunate. I don't know what your thoughts are now, but you want to share them.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to Alas and to our cherished viewers, particularly my constituents in 2nd D who have taken time off to watch us this morning. You see, wrong is wrong. And crime is crime. These vigilante groups cannot be allowed to continue festering within our political space. It's a matter of fact. And if we, as political actors, will not be candid enough to the people of Ghana, admit that we have encouraged these groups to grow within our parties, and rather seek to rationalize by apportioning blame and seeking to suggest that it is the NPP which in 2015 and 2016 institutionalized these vigilante groups. How are we going to make progress? Because unless you think that, consistent with your party's belief that Ghanaians have short memory, we can't remember the activities of these groups in both parties in the past, in previous by-elections in this country. I'm sorry. Doesn't work that way. We can't approbate and reprobate at the same time. I've always said that, look, the seeds that we are sowing as political parties, particularly when we are in opposition, the absence of state protection to political parties clearly is the reason why these groups have been.
John Kudalo offered you political position, official protection in 2016.
At what
asked
point?
that you disband these groups, and the parties refused.
Look,
you even had your
Johnny,
presidential candidate had a chance to go and select who you want to guard you. 6 of them.
Johnny, at what point did that decision arise?
At the point he said, as IGP,
at what point?
Disband these groups.
At what point? This was close to the elections, where we've all erred. Since they went into opposition, have they now institutionalized the Hawks? They've been with them forever. You've seen pictures of former President Mahama during his unity walks with people in Hawk t-shirts guarding him. When he was in government, of course, he had state security apparatus that could provide him with that security.
He still does as ex-president.
Well, I guess, but are they sufficient in number to protect his team and the party wherever they're going? So let's have that kind of conversation and see what it is that, as a country, we can do to ensure that our political party...
That one day, these boys, whether they be in NDC or MP, were a central point where now, after chasing officials of both parties, they get to a central point and they become like the Boko Haram of Nigeria.
Well, I hope
do you see that?
We do not get there. And I, of course, I'm not a soothsayer to be able to predict what is going to happen in the future. But obviously, from what we've seen so far, brazenly going out to murder in broad daylight, clearly it's not a good sign. And so it's about time that we drop the politicking and be candid and fair to the people of Ghana and find ways that would ensure that these groups cease to exist.
We know those who commandeer them, so to speak, within the parties. We know those who commandeer these groups, those whose voice they listen to, those who fund them, those who give them money. We know. Why won't we as political parties speak to those people and tell them, look, tell your boys to that Ejumanasa, we have closed.
And I agree. Should be part of the...
But rather go to the police and say, investigate.
You see, and that's the insincerity that my friends on the other side always want to exhibit.
So it happens on your side.
No, I agree. And what were their comments when it happened in our side? That's exactly the kind of comments I want to hear from him. People who attacked courts, okay, they committed a crime. The police arrested some of them, investigated, prosecuted. They said, well, they are party boys. Today, when it happened in your camp, we should not brand, but treat it as pure crime. How does that work? If it wasn't good at the time, and we attributed it to the political party, not the individuals, then we should be consistent. But is that the kind of conversation we want to keep on having as a people? Obviously not. And so when these things come about, let's attack it from its roots. We know where the roots are. But we'll drop it and play the politicking, MPP, NDC, and that's the end of the matter.
That's sad.
Of course it is. And I'm saddened that we, the politicians who are supposed to lead, are not taking leadership.
Well, it's
in this regard.
it's because you condemn and then you come back to equalize.
No, but you see,
that's what you all do.
I
you condemn at one point and then you come back to equalize.
Johnny,
and then you call it history or background.
I agree, but you see, just as they tell us that we are in government now, and so whatever actions or inactions that some of these people do, we should be held responsible. Look at the Ayawaso West Wugon incident. Of course, as far as I'm concerned, it'll be completely blown out of proportion because it was one incident, regardless of the quantum of injuries that I'm coming.
You can't say that.
Please, I'm coming. The point is this, that state security apparatus have been used, as they say, to unleash violence on Ghanaians in the past. What happened? When the Let My Vote Count demonstrators, there were state security agents who were unleashed on them. What happened? Absolutely nothing.
Equalization.
It's not.
It is.
I'm trying to draw a clear difference. What has happened today? When, assuming without admitting that, as they claim, state security agents were unleashed on innocent citizens in Ayawaso. What has happened? A comprehensive investigation is taking place in public. That's a clear difference. Because obviously, whether it's election related,
and we're sure that the recommendations of this commission will be abided by the president.
His Excellency the President, in the wisdom that he set up this commission, to implement in full whatever recommendations that they bring. Because otherwise, you see, what we forget is that the larger Ghanaian public is looking, is watching, to see what it is that would come out of this commission. And so I have said that really is the commentary about the content and the alleged inconsistencies, because all the portions that I've listened to and the claim that Minister of Interior says the vehicles are not part of police fleet, and Minister of National Security says that, well,
that's one part of it.
Consists of inconsistency.
There's a video we have of Chief DSP Azugu, who was in charge of the team that went there. He was completely helpless in trying to call the boys' order. And again, I say, I grew up in the barracks. I know what anybody with an officer with pegs on his shoulder, the power that they have. Even a staff sergeant, you know, a W. I know what command they have. When they tell the boys stop, they stop. When they tell them go, they go. In that video, you could tell the DSP calling the people, and nobody was minding him. Then he calls this one, then people pass behind him, and they're kicking the people and hitting them all over. That's clearly an indication that he didn't have control.
Well,
and that's a sense of worry.
Well,
that's worry.
Well, that's why I guess that the investigation is critical.
So up until now, Bobo, we saw their faces. We saw the DSP, and the DSP even decided that he was going to write the name of the person who assaulted Honorable Sam George on a sheet of paper at the commission. For me, I don't know why it was allowed. For me, from a layman's point of view, but we saw their faces. We saw it. He knows them. He commandeered them. Why has no arrest been made up until now? Why?
You see, I wouldn't know from where I sit whether some process hasn't commenced internally. Because let's not pretend as if to say the rules of the disciplinary procedure within the security services is the same as is applicable for some private citizen who has committed some offense. Okay, there is some clearly laid down procedure in dealing with administrative indiscipline, excesses and all that. And if indeed it is established that some crime has been committed, because bear in mind that some minimal force, okay, is granted state security agencies in ensuring law and order. So I think that the appropriate thing for us to do is to wait for the commission to conclude its work, so that whatever findings that they come out with and the recommendations that they come out with can be acted upon. Because asking whether some people have been arrested, I don't know whether police people go on operation or...
A member of parliament equal to a high court judge was slapped in public. That's not good. And I'm just, you know, looking at you eyeball to eyeball, and I want you to speak to me from the better part of the bottom of your heart. If the tables turned and this happened to you, what would your reaction be?
I have roundly condemned the manhandling of my very good friend, Sam George. And indeed, we have spoken since then. We've met. He's a very good friend of mine, just like Alassane here, and we engage quite often. And I would not, under any circumstance, countenance the actions that the state security agents took against him. No matter what it is, no matter the extent of provocation, if any, it was completely unacceptable for them to have manhandled him in the manner that they did. And I say that the internal processes and the commission's inquiry that is currently ongoing, and indeed the IGP, if I understand quite clearly, has indicated that some investigation is going to be conducted, and if people are found culpable, if it requires prosecution, by all means.
Okay.
I fail to see why we are in a haste to jump the gun when indeed His Excellency the President has responded to calls that were made by Ghanaian citizens, including members of the NDC. Mr. Totobi Kwache's open letter to the President called for such a commission to be set up. And His Excellency the President, consistent with his belief in governance, transparency in governance, has set up this commission, which is doing a fantastic job. Look at the kinds of things that are happening there. And so I will urge, after all, the commission has only 1 month. Of course, I don't know whether His Excellency the President would heed to the petitions that are
for extension.
That some other matters that relates to electoral violence in our country should be covered, so we can deal with this matter conclusively.
Step down for me and let Sweeney take. Yes, Sweeney.
Just quickly. I mean, my brother talked about appropriate and reprobate, and there's a need for me to clarify that. Sometimes when these discussions are conducted, it's important that we note the similarities and the dissimilarities. Right. Some things may look the same, may look similar but not be the same. So if you don't disintegrate, you know, the qualities of the discussion, you will think you will make a mistake of saying what is similar is the same, but it's not always the case. So, for example, when you have party leadership leading some of these boys to the courtrooms, paying their fines, you know, speaking in defense of them and threatening the whole party that if these boys are sanctioned, the party will come down.
Which party leadership are you talking about? Which party leadership are you talking about?
You made reference to those boys who went to court and who got prosecuted. So when you are having a discussion of the conduct of those boys, it becomes difficult to insulate what they have done, which is criminal, from the embracement and the endorsement that they get from party bigwigs and leadership.
To your former
I wasn't interrupting you. Please.
Allow him. He kept quiet.
So it's important that we understand the discussion from that point. When we say that, look, the boys committed a crime, let them be dealt with. And then you have party leadership providing them with soccer, you know, and giving them all the protection and support that they need. Then it becomes difficult to insulate the party from it. But in this particular case, I'm saying it is criminal, and I'm not just the only one saying it. The former president is saying it's criminal. Our party leadership reported to the police, and they are saying, arrest them. And you haven't seen anybody come around to say, look, these are my boys. If you deal with them, the party will calm down, like we saw in the past. You know, so that is where the difference is, even though the cases may be similar. So in that discussion, when you look at the qualities of the argument, then you understand whether it makes sense to attribute it to a party or to treat it, to brand it, you know, as a party thing, or to treat it as criminal.
Well,
so,
where we've gotten to, we need to
I get
flash
that.
out everything.
I get that. But then again, please. But then again, let us not confuse the discussion of the, I mean, or the need to disband vigilante groups with what happened in Ayawaso Wagon and what the commission is doing. Let's not confuse that. I get disheartened when we do that. There are two separate issues. The need to disband vigilante groups.
They are not vigilante. We
Yes,
need to stop calling them
call them whatever,
so that they don't get the impetus to
the need to deal with that canker is separate but somewhat related to what happened in Ayawaso Wagon. Some people have said it is an escalation. What happened in Ayawaso Wagon is an escalation. That I am willing to concede. But I think what happened in Ayawaso Wagon was state-sponsored terrorism. And that is why we need to segregate it. Because in the past, what we have had has been the case of party, you know, if you like, over-exuberance people who come together to say they are providing security. NDC, MPP. Then you have the states in the middle. Sometimes they either act well or they don't act well. But you will have always distinguished between these are NDC boys, these are MPP boys, but this is the state. In Ayawaso Wagon, you had some people that we are yet to identify having access to state accoutrements and unleashing mayhem. That is why I call it state-sponsored terrorism. If you say it was an escalation of the what do you call it, NPP vigilante groups being given state uniforms and all that, that then makes it even worse. And that is why it should not be compared to what has ever happened before. Again, Johnny, just the sad part again is when we equate this to what has happened during demonstrations in this country. The NPP, the CJA demonstrations under the NDC got police brutalizing them. The MPP have had demonstrations that led my vote count.
Equalization.
No, Johnny. You see, when we introduce this word, we miss the point.
No,
equalization.
Equalization. He talked about led my vote count.
No. But that is not. I'm making the point that those are things that have existed. It is separate from giving hoodlums, uniforms, and guns to terrorize people. It's different. I'm saying that those things, don't say that, oh, because people demonstrated in the past, whether under NDC or NPP, and the security men beat them, so it is also equal to state terrorism. No, those are separate things that we have all faced. I'm not equalizing. I'm just stating the fact that those are things that have happened. But those are different from what happened in Ayawaso.
Let's not equate it. Hold on for me. Sohini, tomorrow the president makes a State of a Nation address. What would you like to hear from the president on security, internal security, that is?
I don't want, honestly speaking, Johnny, I'm tired of hearing from our president.
Why?
He talks a big lot and does so little.
That's unfair.
That is so true. He does so little. Give him the speeches. Listen to him. He's so impressive with speeches. So impressive. But there's absolutely nothing on the ground. So I'm tired of listening to him. Maybe he should have asked me what I want him to do. I have lost hope that he is capable of doing anything. How many times hasn't he promised us? Especially when these hoodlums started seizing state institutions, when he first came into power, that he was dealing with it. How many beautiful speeches hasn't he made about how he was going to deal with it? 2 years on, it's getting out of hand. Now you are even getting state support and sponsorship.
He
to
needs
do
your
it.
commitment to work.
What kind of commitment? He has the power. He has been given the authority. He's commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces.
Can he work alone? Can the president work alone?
He is an executive president. He has the laws on his side. If he doesn't, if he takes the partisanship of his eyes, he has all the authority that he requires to deal with this, especially starting with his party.
So what do you want him to do?
I think that, look, I have lost confidence in the president's ability to do anything.
You don't want him to say.
But first of
what
all,
do you want him to do?
I think he needs to start. I was listening to Pastor Mensah Otabil when he spoke about corruption in the past. I think it was Occupy Ghana platform. And he gave the example of, I think, Zimbabwe, where they were going to start, what do you call it? A decongestion exercise, and started by destroying their party office, the ZANU-PF party. And so he wanted people, leaders, to fight what is graft or what is wrong in society by dealing with what happens in their homes. And that is how you give confidence and actually even scare others that if you engage in it, look, this is even his own person that he's doing that to. Let the president leave that example. Let him deal with the violence that he started championing, because he was the leader of the MPP when this thing started in 2015. Forming the Bulldogs, the Invisible Forces, the Delta Forces, unleashing mayhem even on their party chairman, chasing their secretary out, and he sat and looked on. And some of us at the time cautioned that if you made him the president, it was going to become a national crisis. And that is what we are faced with today.
Okay,
let him deal with it.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that others will
deal
follow.
with it. Bobo, what do you want to hear from the president? What do you look
Thankfully,
forward to?
the president need not listen to Alassane Suhuyini in taking any decision that he intends to take.
So you see,
Oh,
you thought I had a role to play. He says the president shouldn't
He
listen.
need not
Doesn't
listen to
the
you.
president
Listen,
need
you
collaboration
see,
from
You
all?
thought I had a role to
hold
play.
on,
He
hold
has
on for it.
executive authority.
Hold
you
on
heard,
for
you
him.
heard him.
Hold on.
He has executive
No, Alassane, hold on.
You heard him. How many incidents
leader.
has?
No,
I can do what he's doing,
No,
so
but-
I don't have a
but-
problem.
Just doing a little of what you
You
started.
see-
Bobo, talk
so
to
you
me.
see how it feels.
Alassane,
like.
stop.
But it's all right.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
You see,
Go on.
you sit here and say you are tired of listening to the president because since he became president, all he's been doing is speaking.
Topic.
Look at the deliverables that we have achieved
In terms of security?
in terms of everything.
No, security.
You see,
that's our focus.
Look, I agree. Of course, the deliberate attempt by the NDC to throw words around state-sponsored terrorism, according to it's a sense of insecurity. You drove here alone. Okay, of course, we've all been living in this country with armed robbery. It's not an MPP problem.
People drive in Somalia alone too.
You see, I don't. Yes,
It's-
and
it's
of course.
not always
I expect.
hey in Somalia.
I expect that we'll get there. I expect that our state security agents, the Ghana Police Service, increasingly government will make more money available to them for them to recruit more people, so their visibility in our communities are enhanced. I expect that we'll get there. But to suggest that we live in some country that is filled with some violence,
You have not told me what you want
some
to hear from the
insecurity.
president.
Oh,
tomorrow.
I expect that His Excellency the President will tell us what it is that the state security agencies have been doing, the kinds of resources that government is going to make available to them, if that in itself is not contained in the budget, and everything that has to provide the Ghanaian assurances that look, we have isolated issues as always, but let's be assured that this country is safe, this country is peaceful. There is nothing close to the sense of insecurity that the NDC is intended on making us all believe. We live in a peaceful environment, and that whatever issues that come up, including the Ayawaso West Wogon and all the other,
Would you like him to
related
call out
matters,
to the IGP
would be dealt
and
with.
tell him to make the laws work? He's done that so many times already, but the law hasn't worked in many instances. Would you like him to call out to
Well,
the
I
IGP?
would rather say it as a half full. The law has not worked in some minor instances, not many instances.
Minor instance.
Of course, I mean,
like the gentleman who went to the Tamale Teaching Hospital, drove out the CEO. We saw his picture out there, and he was in the police custody. Nothing has happened to him after all this while.
Have you followed up to see what has happened to him?
Followed up. Nothing has happened
well,
to him.
Say it again.
Giving him
Giving me a job where I'm not aware, and so I cannot. Of course, I'm not aware
And
of
I'm
that.
saying
incident.
nothing has happened to
And
him.
so I cannot speak to it. But obviously, the impression that the NDC want the people of Ghana to believe to be prevailing in this country is definitely not the case.
We don't want the people of Ghana to believe.
Okay.
The people of Ghana are living the reality. They have, in their area like Medina, seen Ahmed Swale being shot on the street. And up till today, we don't know who did it. They know of the example of the Gapoha PRO and manager. The people of Ghana are
Listen,
living it.
when
They are
we
living
go back,
the insecurity.
we will see
Okay.
the
They are
kind of
living
Gentlemen,
the insecurity. We
I
are
thank
not
you very
making
much.
them believe. They are
My
living
guess. Gentlemen, I thank you very much. As a country, we have unresolved murders. That's just what they're telling you. A long list of it. Fennec Autry, Roger Kumsing, Openyina Dade, Josephine Asante. The list is endless. But I thank you very much. Honorable Asa Soyini is the Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Grateful for your time. And Andrew Ejapa Mesa is the Member of Parliament for Second T. Most grateful indeed for your time.